The following is paid programming. Welcome to Something More with Chris Boyd, certified financial planner practitioner and founder of Asset Management Resources, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. We call it Something More because we like to talk not only about those important dollar and cents issues, but also the quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Here he is, your fulfillment facilitator, your partner in prosperity, advising clients across the country, your host, J. Christopher Boyd.
Welcome to Something More with Chris Boyd. I'm Chris Boyd. I'm here with Jeff Perry and Scott Birmingham, both of our firm, Asset Management Resources. Thanks for being with us. It is nearly New Year's, and it is the time of year when we make resolutions and start thinking about revisiting some of our financial planning and portfolio management. And that's what we want to talk about in this segment, very specifically. We were in another segment, we were talking about an article that had some great ideas for things you might consider, things you want to do as you relate to a new year and your financial planning, personal finance. One of them related to the portfolio, and that's where I want to pick up because we kind of referenced it, but kind of went by it quickly. But there were a lot of interesting points in there. And what I want to let you know is we at AMR are offering a complementary portfolio review, and it is really more than a portfolio review. There's a lot that goes into it. So we'll elaborate on all that goes into it as we get into this, and invite you to take advantage of this. If you're someone who's thinking, I've had some downs in the last couple of years, maybe it's come back. Do I have the right mix? Are there things I should be doing differently? I listen to the show. I hear them talking about the way they make adjustments to their portfolios. I don't necessarily do that same level of activity. What are the things I should be paying attention to? Are there things that maybe I should be positioned differently? Do I have too much of a single holding? Do I have too much of a single industry? Do I tend to buy the same things just in different labels? There's all kinds of considerations that we see, routinely. There are kind of, I don't want to call them mistakes, but, things that maybe could be avoided, and it might be worth examining. Am I doing things the right way? Am I chasing too much yield because I'm looking for income, but in not realizing all the level of risk that might be creating without intending to, all kinds of considerations. So these are the things that we're able to take a look at, and we refer to it as the offer. It is a portfolio review, and really, as Scott was talking about off camera, Scott, at the commercial, that there's really more than just a portfolio review, right? I mean, we really do essentially a full financial plan in the process.
It is. It's not just a look at what does your 401k look like currently, though that's part of it. But the idea is take a look at your income, your expenses, your assets, your debts, where you are currently and what you're hoping to accomplish, because we're trying to make informed recommendations on your portfolio. But if you have 20% in credit card debt and paying a high rate, or you have no emergency fund, then maybe thinking a little more towards the investment side should be secondly after you do some of the other things first.
Yeah, and understanding your goals of, what you're trying to do. We've seen this, at times when we think someone comes in with money to invest, and it turns out they've got plans for that money in short order. Right. Well, if we put it to work in a way that has market risk, that might not be the best thing in that circumstance. So we need to know context. We need to know how it all fits together before we can identify what's the best, in our mind, best recommendation for how to structure things and how to, position that portfolio. Oftentimes people have one level of risk that they tolerate and are comfortable with, but over time that can change. And it's something that we want to take a fresh look at and examine and say, do we have the right mix of holdings for this tolerance, this temperament? Where we position investments, where should we have more liquidity? Where should we have more long-term, exposure to volatility, that can differ from person to person, and the design of their portfolio and how much they have and which asset classes. These are all variables. The last couple of years, some of it's been around Roth. Should I have Roth? Should I not have Roth? Should I be converting some of this money? Where it makes sense? How much? There's all these variables that kind of all come together, and we're referring to it as a portfolio review, but in reality, it's trying to look at it in a comprehensive view and get a handle on things. We're giving away 10 free complimentary portfolio review, where we will ideally hopefully you might be kicking the tires and saying if we're a good fit for you, but not everyone wants to commit to that, and so this is an opportunity to get a feeling of is this helpful, and so maybe some people do it themselves and they just want a second set of eyes, and they may not be interested in working with us, but some people likely will come in and they actually end up wanting to hire our services, and it's a way for them in a very non-committal way to kind of see if we're a good fit for them. There's no obligation whatsoever. We do not expect anyone to commit to anything. It's not a pressure sales situation. We really just want to go through things and showcase how we can be of help to clientele. And if it's something that is helpful to you, maybe you want to talk to us more. So in any case, yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to just extend that point that you're making about this no pressure. In fact, one of the most, for the clients that I've brought in the last almost 3 years, one of the most surprising feedbacks I get is after the first meeting. This is a 2-meeting process, by the way. Right?
Yes.
So we can talk more about the process. But
yeah, that's good.
In the first meeting, I have had more people than I can count say, after the meeting, say to me privately, like, you guys didn't try to sell me anything. Like,
didn't ask for the sale.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in today's world where so many things that we do have a sales component first, right? It's, whoever you're talking to about whatever, almost, you can just feel the sales component to it, the pitch.
Yeah.
And so it is very low key. The first meeting entirely is, I always forget what you call it.
I call it the "It's About You" meeting.
It's about you, and that's not us.
It's all about you.
The client, the would-be
client. We want to get to know the client, the prospective client, whatever it is. That we want to get to know you, what your situation is, what your goals are, where your assets are, what your family dynamics are. Like all these interrelated considerations. So it's all about you. After which, in another meeting, we'll have the opportunity to tell you more about us, how we work, what we charge. But after we've had a chance to kind of do some analysis, give you some assessment, we actually, as to your point about process, Jeff, in this first meeting, it's all just questions. Tell us more, gather the information, bring statements and so forth. And we'll give you some insight as to what you might want to bring to that meeting or prepare in advance. But ultimately, the next meeting, after we gather a lot of that information, have that conversation over an hour or more, we generally then say, okay, give us some time to review this. There might be a few things that we say, this would be helpful if you could go back and find this, or, maybe there's some additional information to be had. And then once we have those details, Scott goes to work putting a lot of this information together in a financial plan and a PowerPoint presentation where we try to go through a little bit about, so the introductory stuff, and then we go into in depth about your forecast. How does this play out over time? What other things? Are there things that we should change? Maybe there's aspirational things. Maybe there's not enough in some cases, like you talk about, Jeff, where there's permission to be able to spend more. Or maybe there's instances where we say, oh, maybe that's not going to work out as well. What should we cut back, right? So we can kind of figure that out, get a little game plan to get a successful outcome of, probability of successful outcome. And then we go back to the PowerPoint and really talk about the portfolio in depth. Because the context matters. We keep talking about that, but as much as we want to talk about the portfolio, understanding that the other forces that fit into the portfolio or that will impact the portfolio are really important. So if you're interested in doing this, if this sounds like it would be worthwhile to you, a complementary portfolio review and ultimately financial plan is part of that, though we may not get through every aspect of all, to your point, Scott, sometimes you make this point, when we're doing a financial planning meeting, not everything gets solved in one sitting. There are things to come back to.
Right. Yeah. We will be pulling up and pointing out all the things we see as maybe obstacles or things to address. We may not have the complete solution without, further discussion, but I point out that in that presentation meeting that you come to, we probably don't even talk about the portfolio until the second half of the meeting. We're going in there confirming everything you told us, your goals, your savings, your income, and then we're looking at how does that project? How do you look? What does that say to you when we show you numbers before we even talk about, all right, now how can we maximize the portfolio?
And that meeting, by the way, is usually, an hour and a half, 2 hours is not uncommon because so much we're trying to do in that period of time. Right. We really do like when there's a couple that, both spouses or, partners are in that meeting, because it's likely to affect both parties, that kind of thing. And we want people to be comfortable with what we're talking about and make sure that it's shared objectives and so forth.
Sometimes they don't have the same goals, or dreams, or fears, even. So it's critical, not just for information, but to make sure that we are hearing both of them and what they're
going down the right path and helping people. If it's not a unified view, how do we navigate that? And to another point that you mentioned earlier, Jeff, and that is, we don't always, I should say that differently. By the end of the second meeting, usually all we do is say, okay, now go home and think it over. Let's give you some of this information. We'll give you,
it's so true. People,
the PDF and so forth. And if you think you'd like to talk to us more, let's schedule a follow-up meeting for that, for either
when I came in to have as Lisa and I were getting closer to retirement, I came in, I wasn't a client at the time. I came in and wanted you to do just that, to look at our plan. And when I left, when we left, I should say, it was like, they didn't there's no pressure. There's just call me if you want. It's refreshing. Absolutely. It sounds a little bit like a commercial, but it's not. I just noted, because I notice every day, or not every day, but every time I go to do something, I feel like I'm in the middle of a sales process.
Yeah.
But I can assure you that if you come in and go through our process, it's not going to feel like a sales process. It's actually going to feel like a process of education and enlightenment, and maybe a little emotional if you're thinking about things. We do have to talk about how long you're expected to live. We do have to talk about what if this happens. We do have to challenge some of your assumptions. So this process is a very healthy process. Whether or not you become a client, it's a healthy process for you and your spouse, if that's appropriate, to go through, because at the end of it, you're going to have not only an opinion from someone you didn't have an opinion from, that sees hundreds of financial plans every year,
right?
But your mind and quite frankly, your heart should be more open to what you need to do, or as you said, maybe that you even have more resources and you can live life at a higher standard than you thought maybe you could.
Right. And sometimes there's, considerations of giving and charitable giving or whatever it may be. And this can open up the door to say, okay, we can undertake some of that. What should that look like? What are the strategies around that? I think, it's more, what we're trying to do is, we're not trying, look, we work as a fiduciary with our clientele. So we're trying to find, what's in the client's best interest? And hopefully, if it's a good fit, we might be a part of that process, but not for everyone, right? It's not a good fit in all instances. Some people have very distinct investment objectives. Maybe they have, just the way they want their structure, their design. it may not be as good a fit for our skill set, right? So
2 weeks ago, we had a meeting together with a potential client, an individual who was referred to us, and it ended up to be that we weren't the right firm, and we knew that. I mean,
yeah,
you said it. It wasn't like something that we were surprised about, and it's so you let that business go
yeah,
because
there might be a better fit for what
there's a
they are
better
really
fit
looking
for what they're
for,
looking for. Absolutely.
and so that's part of it too. I guess is all that's we're trying to say, is that you know. I think of it kind of more like a diagnosis. If it's a progression of
Mhm.
thought, and if it's not something that people need to be feel pressured with. If we're identifying what their needs are, we're trying to give some real thoughtful deliberation about how can we help them achieve what they want to achieve the way they want to achieve it, whatever that might be, whether it's risk or outcomes, whatever that may be. Um, and we present it in a way that says, here's why, here's what we think, and here's what we would do, and people feel like that connects with them, then
Mhm.
they'll want to come back and do that. And if they don't, it's fine. You know what I mean? Then it's time well spent, got some information, maybe some ideas of what they could be doing differently, and ultimately maybe one down, who's next, if they need
Right.
help, you know what I mean?
Which
So
yeah.
I would,
hopefully we're a part of that. What's that, Scott?
I would point out in 24 years, and I don't know how many financial plans, no one has ever walked in the door with a perfect financial plan that we couldn't improve upon, make some suggestions, things are missing, here are some to-dos. So there's always things to be done.
It's a really good point. And just I've been talking about this, and as I'm thinking about it, I should mention, if you should want to take advantage of this, how do you do it? Best way is probably to give us a call. We're obviously in the office, Monday through Friday type of thing. Obviously not on New Year's Day, but Monday through Friday, and you can give us a call at 508-771-8900. While we're in the office, that's the best time to do it. We can set you up with an appointment, send you out a packet. That's part of the process. We send you out a little bit of information, what to gather, how to go about it, and so we'll have that for you. And then we can schedule that meeting for it's probably, candidly, looking out several weeks at this point, because we already have a number of people that are on the calendar, and we have some transitions going on, so that'll be a part of it as well, our availability. But come on in, we'll get you in, and we'll definitely make some adjustments. People sometimes are traveling at this time of year, may be interested, but heading to Florida. We can do things virtually. That's certainly doable. It's much obviously more desirable to have a meeting in person, but don't let that get in the way. If you're traveling, we can certainly work with you remotely. Might be better to get your materials together before you head out of town, because you might not have your tax return with you while you're away, or whatever it is. Some of those statements, but in any event, let's go back to talking about the some of the things that this article talked about, and we can identify some of the things that we might be doing as well. And if you're interested, keep in mind you can go to our website. You can go to somethingmorewithchrisboyd.com. That's probably a good one to go to, somethingmorewithchrisboyd.com, and we will have the opportunity to be a resource to you through that as well. You can, anything you do to connect with us, just reach out with the communication that starts with the offer, or
Mhm.
portfolio review, however you want to refer to it.
It gets our
We'll know,
attention.
we
Yep.
know what you're referring to, and just indicate you'd like to meet to take advantage of that. And we understand that it's desirable to just take advantage of this, and whether or not you're committed, no one comes in committed that they absolutely want to work with us or anything like that. So it's complementary. We do typically like to, ideally for clients who have, or listeners who have assets of $500,000 or more, But it's not rigid. We're not looking to enforce that rigidly. If you think you'd benefit from some help, just reach out to us. We're happy to be a resource. Okay.
I think the most exciting thing about the second meeting, Chris, is when they get their score. So
Yeah.
many people, first of all, when they come in, they want to know their number, right? How much do I need to retire? How much do I need to retire? It's not as simple as that, obviously, but
But that's the way we think about it, for sure. Yeah.
Scott, can you describe in the second meeting when you give them the score and what you kind of describe what leads up to that, like getting to know them, getting all their documents, confirming that. But can you just highlight that part of the process? Because I think it's the most exciting.
The score on how they look for essentially retirement?
Yeah, the likelihood of success of their current plan.
Sure. So, besides portfolio review, blended into that is we're putting together essentially a financial plan for you. And included in that plan is your assets, your allocation, your expenses, your Social Security, pensions, taxes, obviously. And within that, we're going to run projections, essentially Monte Carlo projections to say, with good years in the market, down years in the market, you're still taking money out for retirement. Based on that, how do you look? Is your money going to last? And usually we run these scenarios out to 92 for a man, 94 for a female, but that's a discussion point as well. And you'll get a score essentially. What is the likelihood that your money is going to last? And from there, we can, if it's not as successful as you want, what can we adjust? Save a little more, spend a little less. Is there areas we can maximize? But there's lots of levers to pull, so it's a good discussion.
And that score is 0 to 100, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be 100% to still be a good outcome. No. I guess it is pretty much like a grade. If you're getting a B or better, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
Ideally, we get the high 90s, and there's just a high likelihood we're gonna have more than enough resources to meet our needs. And of course, this is only with respect to the portfolio. If one has real estate, that's still an asset that's not necessarily counted in this spending process, so that can be a little bit of resource. Yeah. I wanted to come back to talk about who's this offer like ideal for, and I want to just mention there's a range of possibilities. But if you're doing it yourself, but you think you might benefit from a second set of eyes, if you're someone who is working with an advisor, but maybe feel like you're not getting the attention you're not confident that what they're doing is being done well, or if you've recently, been widowed or something, and someone else in your family has been doing this, and now you're suddenly thrust upon you to have this issue, or whether it's illness or whatever. That may be a good instance of a second set of eyes. All of these can be reasons to come in and see us. So 508-771-8900. We're happy to have the opportunity to talk to you and take advantage of the offer. Guys, thanks so much for giving your input on this. And for all of you, thanks for being with us. Hope that the year ahead is going to be one of great things, and take advantage of this as a way to get it started.
Thank you for listening to Something More with Chris Boyd. Call us for help, whether it's financial planning, portfolio management, insurance concerns, or those quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Whatever's on your mind, visit us at amrfinancial.com or call us toll-free at 866-771-8901 or send us your questions to radio@amrfinancial.com.